In this video today, we are looking at eating a 800 calorie breakfast or lunch, depending on when you eat that first meal of the day. You're going to be able to plus or minus 200 calories from this 800 calorie breakfast. So you can adjust it up in terms of calories down to 600 or up to 1,000 just by removing or adding a few ingredients, and actually maybe even more once you have the numbers and you know how to do it. This breakfast was actually a breakfast I was eating when I was on a keto diet. So it leans a little bit more, as you'll see, towards the fattier side of things. When I'm not on a keto diet, which is now, I still like to eat in a way that resembles a lot of keto because I feel a lot better and feel less sluggish when I'm not eating as many carbohydrates and heavy carbohydrates in my meals. So this meal actually would be keto friendly, and by removing one ingredient, it would become extremely keto friendly, depending on how strictly you are doing keto. The rest of this video is going to be a little bit of a tutorial style. So if you just wanted the information, you're going to want to watch the next video where I review all this information on a laptop and I just talk through it a little bit more succinctly. But actually, I think the rest of this video is really useful to hang about for, because I'm going to show you how to get this information into a calorie tracking app. And then you can do it for the rest of your meals, and you can get much more in control of how you're eating and tracking your diet. I actually coach nutrition and fitness one-on-one, and I want to launch my first group. So if you want to do this as part of a group and community and in an affordable way, then please go sign up on my website. And as soon as I have 10 people, I'm going to kick it off and you can be the first people to be a part of that journey. So diving straight into this, I use an app called Chronometer. And if you want to know why, there is another video I recorded on it, but you're going to see me using it. And I think it's a really useful skill just to see how I put this information into the app. The other thing I want to know is when I'm at home, I have a weighing scales and I do this really strictly. But as you'll know, if you watch some of my other videos, I really like to separate practice from skill. So the practice is to weigh stuff, put it into a calorie tracking app, start to understand all the food you're eating, all the other stuff, as well as just the calorie content. And actually, once that practice has become a really good skill, then when you're away, like I am at the moment, then I have a little bit of judgment that I use when I'm putting these numbers in, and I don't have a weighing scale with me. Okay guys, so jumping into Chronometer, and I had this breakfast yesterday, and I'm going to actually eat the same breakfast again today. And it's really important, guys, in terms of your nutrition journey, to actually eat really consistent meals so you can be on top of how much calories you're eating and how you're fueling yourself for your workouts, your day, and everything else. So diving straight into this, and I'm not trying to sell Chronometer to you, but I am going to go through some of the useful features so you can see why I like it, and then just highlighting things I find useful. So in this instance, I'm going to add food, and because I eat a lot of eggs, it already comes up. So eggs cooked, and it says 160 because actually in the UK, whenever I am eating eggs, I do tend to eat about 3 eggs, and that's 160 grams. So if we whack that in, we're going to see that populates down here for lunch, and then I'm just going to keep going and adding to my lunch. So I had 3 eggs, and an egg roughly is about 55 grams, and the last time I had 3 eggs, they're about 160, and I weighed them, so that's what I'm going to go with. I'm also just going to put in ingredients, and I'm not going to try and be too specific about the kind of avocado I'm eating. I'm away right now. I'm just going to go with the avocado that's very similar to the one I ate at home. So here I actually ate about half a really large avocado, which would be about 100 grams. If it's a smaller size, medium size, you may have to adjust this down. But like I said, guys, I'm just showing you how I do this when I'm away, because I don't have a weighing scales. But because I do this with a weighing scales at home, I can do this quite intuitively. So we've got eggs, we've got the avocado. I put a little bit of extra virgin olive oil into my pan to cook this, and extra virgin olive oil, just so you know, if it's about a teaspoon, that's about 5 grams. If it's a tablespoon, it's about 15 grams. When I was on keto, I used to actually struggle to get calories in because it's kind of a difficult diet to do well in terms of getting the right calories in, because you're trying to eat clean at the same time. If we carry on, so that was the eggs, the avocado, the olive oil. I also had some Greek yogurt with this breakfast. So Greek yogurt, and usually in England, I would have 3 tablespoons. A tablespoon is about 30 to 40 grams. So in this instance, it felt like it was a little bit less than what I eat in terms of the visual quantity. So I'm going to go with 80, because in England, it's about 90 to 100, 120, depending on how many tablespoons I actually have. So about 80 grams feels right. In the UK, I would add like a mix of assorted nuts, but here I've brought with me almonds, and you're going to see in the video where you're seeing me prepare this food, I have a small, it's actually here and it's empty, little tin, and I know when I weighed this at home that when I filled it up, it would have about 30 grams of almonds in it and 30 grams of walnuts. So that's quite full for me here, and I brought almonds and stuff with me to eat while I'm abroad. The thing I would say is in my breakfast, I actually ate that much, but that could be somewhere where you start to adjust, because if you are not wanting to add too much fat into your breakfast, you may want to just have half that quantity. So what I'm going to say here is walnuts, 15 grams. I'm going to put 15 grams in. Actually, no, I'm going to put in what I ate, which is, no, I'm going to put 15 grams in. But that's a way of potentially adjusting it up and down. You may just not eat the almonds, or you may not eat the walnuts. You may take one of these out. So we're going to talk about that at the end of the video, adjusting this up and down. But for now, let's just crack on with what I actually ate. Add the almonds in. Great. Then you'll see I had a bell pepper, so a green bell pepper, and it was roughly 60 grams. Yeah, it was about the same quantity I have at home. I then also had some watercress here. And as you'll see, in terms of calorie content, when you start to get into the vegetable areas, you really doesn't really make a huge difference. The final thing I had here was actually papaya. And in England, I would probably have berries, frozen berries, but I've not been buying them here abroad, because I prefer while I'm here to buy fruit that's covered, that I don't have to wash, because it's just a bit of an issue here. And I would say how much I had today was about 70 grams, so about 70 grams worth. So that's it. That was my breakfast. So if I scroll up to the top, this is around 800 calories, and obviously my app is telling me 773. The one thing you want to not get too attached to is this being an exact science. It just isn't, for so many reasons. It's really hard to measure the quantity of things accurately. All the things in here aren't nutritionally identical to things you pick up. And also nutrition labels and nutrition statistics just have tolerance error. That's quite large in there. So don't get too attached to the number, but about 800 calories was my breakfast. Now, if you wanted to adjust this down, I would think about perhaps removing the walnuts. That would take away 100 calories. And kilocalories is obviously what we're stating here, but generally we just talk about calories. You don't always say kilocalories. The other thing you could do is take away an egg. Not many people like eating 3 eggs a day. So if you, let's say, adjusted this down, say by 55 grams, because that's what roughly a medium to large size egg would be, you're going to see that drops by about 80 calories. So just by removing one of these, so maybe you just want some walnuts, because actually the walnuts taste nicer in terms of having it with a salad and breakfast rather than the almonds. If you remove the almonds and if you remove one egg, you would have adjusted your calorie quantity down. You would have adjusted your calorie quantity down to 600. So there you go. But there's other ways of potentially doing that. So it's just by adjusting the quantity of what is in your meals. And of course you can make this even higher. So for walnuts, yesterday I actually ate the entire tin while I was having my breakfast. So that would have been 30 grams of walnuts, and it would have been about 30 grams of almonds. So there you go. If I add the amount of walnuts I actually had yesterday, which was 30 grams, with the almonds, I can increase my calories almost up to 1,000. And say, for instance, I wanted to add even more calories because I'm only eating 2 meals a day and I'm training. And for me, that would take my calorie intake need up to somewhere around 3,000, perhaps even more, depending on how much work I'm putting in. And as you can see, even 1,000 calories at breakfast or a little bit more is still not going to be enough without another very heavy meal. So here I would consider adding in a protein shake I've been having recently, which is on the form protein. Let's see if I find it. Yeah, which one of these? A Form protein shake, and even that hasn't added too many calories, but it also has helped me on a day when I'm working out get the nice amount of protein into this meal. Let's really quickly look at something else. Just one thing while we're here, which is a feature I would use in the UK, which is quite nice about these apps, but I'm just going to trial it here. And I don't quite expect it to work because I don't expect this is trained on Indonesian barcodes. Yeah, it's not found. So there you go. But yeah, you could scan your barcode in. That's why these calorie tracking apps have become really useful, because they do make your life easier. I used to use an Excel spreadsheet up until probably just a few months ago. I was quite behind on getting onto these calorie apps because I really didn't like some of the original ones that came out. I just find them really hard to use. Down to our original 800 calories, well, we'll see we get about 32 grams of protein. Like I said, we're leaning way more towards the fats, so 60 grams of fats. Net carbs are 19. And if we just jump into this, we can actually see what's contributing the most. So if I wanted to be on a heavy or a very restricted keto diet, I would remove the papaya maybe. I would potentially think about replacing the Greek yogurt maybe, I'm not sure. At the end of the day, on a keto diet, if you're really strict, you're trying to eat less than 20 grams a day, and this one meal would take you very close to that 20 grams. So you may want to consider that if you're on a very strict keto. But a non-strict keto, they say, tends to be less than 50 grams a day. So this would be well inside that. But as you can see, it's actually really easy for carbs to add up. And if you looked at this meal, you wouldn't actually generally associate carbohydrates with this meal, would you? So just think about when you're actually eating carbohydrates, how much carbohydrates you're actually consuming. That's it for this video. You can do the maths yourself for the calorie quantity you need. I've recorded another video on calculating what your calorie need actually is. And then you can use this, right? Use it up and down. Add calories by taking away an egg or taking away some almonds, or add more calories in by adding the same kind of ingredients. Hope that's been useful. And like I said, I'm going to go through this much more swiftly and actually on the laptop version now that my meal is on there. And run through that. So if you want to check that out and just see how it looks on a laptop, which looks slightly different, and there are some other different metrics, then please go and check out that video. Like I said, guys, if you want some help with this, part of a community in a cost-effective way, then I really want to launch a group where I help people track calories, not just because calories are important, because the actual wider picture becomes so important in terms of how you relate to nutrition. When you start to think about all the food you're eating and consuming, this becomes a lot more of a deeper experience. If you want to be a part of that, I'd be grateful to have you there. Then please go and sign up on my website. And as soon as that launches, you'll be the first to know. And of course, you can reach out if you prefer to work with someone like me one-to-one, then you know where to go. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I shall see you in the next one. Thank you.